All right, hello everyone. Welcome to tuning in to another sneak preview for the Bowl City International Film Festival. My name is Hannah Silverman, and today I'm joined with Paul Kimball, the director of the film The Color of Spring.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi. All right, so I always start off with the first big question. How did you get into filmmaking?
Um, that is a long and I I should just say I went to film school and leave it at that. But I'm actually a lawyer and historian by training. And when I finished my law degree, I articled. I was called to the bar. I was playing in a rock band at the time, and I said, I think I'd rather be the next Paul McCartney than the next. Trying to think of a famous lawyer. I don't know. Famous
Elle
lawyer.
Woods is the first one that
Clarence
came to my mind.
Clarence Darrow. I'm going very 1920s there with the Scopes Monkey trial. Played music for about 6 or 7 years when it was in the 90s, and then that didn't work out. And through a series of unfortunate events, Lemony Snicket reference, I wound up in the film industry, first as a government civil servant administering the film funding here in Nova Scotia, and then eventually saying, you know what, if these guys can do it, I can do it. So I moved to the private sector as a producer and then eventually a writer director as well. Because at the end of the day, I've always been interested in storytelling. So whether you're a lawyer in a courtroom or whether, I briefly worked as a police officer, whether you're a police officer on a witness stand or whether you're a filmmaker or a musician, whatever you're doing, you're always telling stories. Wait, that's bad if you're on a witness stand. Anywho, uh, I did not commit perjury, I swear. Um, but yeah, the gist of it is I sort of a long and winding road, but storytelling has always been at the fore of what I've wanted to do.
That's cool because that leads into my next question. What inspired you to tell this particular story for The Color of Spring?
Well, I thought the next question was going to be, so what perjury did you commit? Um, the it's sort of this story I wrote about 11 years ago. I made a terrible. That's four terribles. Probably should be 10. Feature film, my first feature film in 2008, almost ruined my career, literally, like bankrupt and everything. Somehow didn't go bankrupt, but close. Managed to survive it, learned a lot from it. But I decided one of the real mistakes that I made was a script that wasn't authentic to me. It was a vampire story, and I've never met a vampire as far as I know. So the next script that I wrote was one that I won't say is autobiographical, but I drew from some of my own experiences, breakups, betrayals. This makes me out to be a terrible person, but relationship troubles that hopefully come to a positive resolution at the end. So maybe I'm a better person than I think. And that was the script that was originally called Rubicon that became The Color of Spring. So that's kind of why I wanted to write it. I wanted to do a script, and it took 11 years to get made. I made 3 other feature films in between as I rebuilt my career, and then finally had the opportunity to make this film, which was actually written before those other 3 films. But yeah, it's a film about love and betrayal, and there's a bit of a supernatural element into it, or magic realism, ideas of life after death. All these are all things that resonate with me, that interest me, that keep me up at night. So that's what I learned from making a terrible feature film, that you should write what you know. And so I did.
Oh, so can you kind of clue us into what the process was like putting this all together? Like, since you're working with something that you're so passionate about?
Sure. We originally, I have a producing friend and partner on some projects, the last 3 feature films, Andrew Mark Sewell in the United Kingdom. And I had sent it to him. He had distributed one of my documentaries that I made before I blew up my career. And I said, look, can you just read this? I know you've done feature films before. Just read it and tell me if the script's any good. And he got back to me. And if he's watching, he'll be like, wait, that's not my accent. It's like, Paul, this is amazing. We should do this, which is not his accent, although maybe it's his attitude. And I said, okay, that's not what I was looking for, but sure, cool. So we were going to do a $5 or $6 million indie feature. We kind of had it cast with, I'm not going to, you could probably find them on IMDb still, maybe, but we had some name actors cast and all ready to go. The only problem was you didn't have a named director. You'd had a guy who blew up his career and made a terrible film that he wouldn't show anyone. So we shelved that, and I went and did a $25,000 horror film called The Cuckoo and the Clock. Did another film for a bigger budget, and eventually a film in 2016 called Exit Thread that did pretty well on the festival circuit. That sort of had a $500,000 budget, and then here we were. And I said, well, okay, now I want to do The Color of, it was still Rubicon. Now I want to do Rubicon. And by then, my television career had taken off again, doing reality TV and documentaries. So the infrastructure was there from a corporate point of view to allow me to go do this feature film, pulling some money out of my own pocket, but getting funding from other sources at a much lower budget level and an entirely different cast. We recast primarily out of the United Kingdom. And yeah, that's sort of how we wound up where we were. So I tell folks the project that if I had shot it 10 years ago, we wouldn't be talking, well, it would have been 10 years ago, so we wouldn't be talking right now either. But it would have been a disaster. I wasn't ready. Doing 3 other films in between, rebuilding my career, learning a lot just about being a human being and a better person, I think. Hubris. Failures will knock your hubris and arrogance out of you. Directors are full of hubris and arrogance. They really shouldn't be. So a failure, I think every director should fail and have a close, like you're about to descend into the orbit of a planet and burn up, brush with bankruptcy and career ending, because it focuses you and you're less likely to make a bad film in the future. So ironically, by making a really, really bad film that that was the genesis for why I wanted to write this film, but then was also the reason why I couldn't direct it at that time. I took a longer winding road, to borrow a Beatles phrase, to get back home. Oh my God, now I'm back to my music career. And to make the film the way I really kind of always wanted to make it in the back of my mind. So the commercial element we were freed of the commercial element. So I don't care if this film ever makes a cent. I mean, I hope it does. But at the end of the day, it's almost a bit of a side project because, I do a lot of television work, but I was able to make the film I wanted to make with no distributors looking over my shoulder, Warner Brothers not telling me that I had to include The Martian Manhunter or whatever Zack Snyder's doing. I could just make the film I want to make. I can make it in black and white, which distributors will tell you is death commercially. I could pull the entire music score out, which I did because I thought it made sense for the story. I could cast the actors I wanted because these were the people I thought were going to inhabit these roles. So sometimes if you wait for something, wow, this is really long-winded. So if you've waited for this point in my answer, if you wait for something, Hannah, you might not get what you want, but you'll get what you need. Sorry, Rolling Stones reference.
No, it's okay, because I wanted to lead into my next question, which was, what advice do you have for the young filmmakers who are watching this interview right now?
Double latte, shot of vanilla, can't go wrong. What advice do I have? Here, you cut this pause out. It sounds corny, but I would say if you're a filmmaker, do what you want to do and don't do what somebody else wants you to do. So now that sounds like hubris and arrogance. So there's a follow on for that. Do what you want to do. Here's the project. I want to do it. Here's how I want to do it. So I was like, I want to shoot it in black and white and I want to cast the right actors. Then realize you can't do it all yourself. So I hired a very good casting agent or director in London who I've worked with before, Matt Western. Matt, help me find the right actors. Tell me which ones you think are good. Let's discuss. Let's work together. I want to shoot it in black and white. I want to find a director of photography who wants to shoot a film in black and white, and I'm comfortable with working. And I got a guy named Dylan Garland who's done a lot of work, a young fella, over the last 7 years with me on television projects, good friend, and he was super keen to do it. And I said, cool, this is a great opportunity for both of us. And we think we want the same thing, but we don't necessarily have the same viewpoint. And so you don't need a sycophant or a lickspittle who's just going to say, yes, Paul, you're the greatest thing ever. You want somebody who says, we want to get to the same destination, but maybe we could take that highway instead of this highway. Or instead of stopping at Denny's, maybe we should stop at Arby's or, whatever, but find different routes and have different ideas. So never be afraid to be open to other people's ideas. So find your destination and be prepared, do it. Ultimately, it's going to be your name on the film. So be prepared to do it the way you want to do it without worrying about things like making money or any of that sort of stuff. If you're an indie filmmaker, just make the film you want to make, but also make sure you listen to all the good people you hire around you, so that you can make an even better film. Because here's the ultimate advice, Hannah. I tell folks at the end of the day, it's not about you, or in this case, me. It's not about that actor, that crew member. It is about the story. It's about the audience. So make a film that the audience is going to enjoy, you hope at least. Make a film that's honest and true. And the best way to do that is to be honest and true with yourself. Whoa, I like
Such good
that.
advice.
Is that good advice?
Um, so I always end our interviews with my personal favorite question, which is, what do you plan to do next?
Yeah. Well, I'm
I like it
54.
because it makes people so scared. It instantly makes them panic.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we do a lot of television work. So I start shooting go back to a ghost hunting show in 2 months and do a show about museums here in the Maritime provinces in Canada. And that puts here's the other advice for indie filmmakers: make sure you have jobs in other sectors of the film and television industry that can, pay the rent and keep your wife happy or your husband happy or whatever, feed the dog. So, but in terms of filmmaking, yeah, there are still stories I want to tell, and I'm kind of hoping. What is this? 2021? I forgot.
I forgot
COVID.
to.
COVID puts a wrench in everything. So who knows what the world's going to look like? I'm lucky. I live in Nova Scotia in Canada. We are literally the safest place to be in all of North America. One of the safest places. I think there's 15 cases at the moment and one new case today. So, you can film here. We have been filming. I'm kind of hoping to make my next feature film sometime next winter, probably this time next winter. So that's the plan. Probably a horror film, a thriller horror film.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. I just wanted to, plug the Bull City International Film Festival again. We're coming soon in March, and everybody check out The Color of Spring, directed by Paul Kimball.
Thank you to the Bull City International Film Festival on behalf of the cast, crew, production team, everybody, and Stuart, the talking dinosaur, who really directed the film. I'm the human that sort of wears the suit of director, but Stuart really did the work. Thank you. So yeah, thank you guys for having us at the festival. Really appreciate it, and I hope everybody watches the film and enjoys it.
Thank you.